everyone, this is Ellie Mae with Silhouette Secrets Plus, and today I have a quick tutorial on how you can use graphics in creating designs. I had this question come up on my Facebook group, and it's really not that difficult to do if you use a few tools in the Silhouette Studio software. So I ordered a graduation cap. The first thing I want to say here is that you really need to know the actual dimensions of your cap because not all of them are the same. There is typically a standard, but it's not always the same size. So you want to make sure to measure your blank. So I measured this. Here's a photo. Roughly estimated my blank is 9 3/4 square. Now, not all of the graduation caps are completely square, and depending on the material that it's made out of could affect your measurements as well. This is a loose material that kind of interfered with my measurements at times. Sometimes it's hard to get that accurate measurement between the actual edges and not just the fabric as it lays. So you want to keep that in mind. The other thing that you're going to need to do is you need to measure where the button is. Now, graduation caps can have buttons that could be removed, or they might not be easily removed or put back on. So you're going to have to play with that as well, depending on your cap. But as you can see here, I've designed it so there's a hole in the center. So we're going to use the actual dimensions of this cap that I have, and I'm going to show you how you can easily create this. So I'm just going to start on a new design mat. And then I'm going to take the measurements that I did. So I'm going to use the drawing tools on the left-hand side, and I'm going to draw my square. So I'm going to hold down my shift key. In my case, I was able to get the measurements to be exact. They were the same, both the height and the width, but not all caps are the same. So make sure you measure. So I'm just going to draw a square. If I hold my shift key down, it draws a perfect square. And then I can come up here to my scale tab options in the quick access toolbar, and I can adjust this as needed. So mine was 9.25, 9 1/4 dimensions. You can also find those scale tools over on the right hand side, and the second tab at the top is your scale tools, and it's really just a personal preference which one you use. Since I have this open, I also want to rotate this, and so you would need to open your transform panel. The third tab at the top is the rotate option, and the reason I want to do this is generally when you are wearing the cap, you'll see that the cap is this direction, not perfectly square like this. So when you're designing it, you want to keep in mind, you want to design it at the same angle that it's going to be shown so that your words aren't sideways. So I am going to use this rotate by option, and I'm just going to rotate it 45 degrees. And you can use it off of your cutting mat. You can use it on however is easier for you to design with. I'm simply going to leave it here for right now. And the next thing I want to do is I'm going to draw a circle for where that button is. So I'm going to choose the draw ellipse tool, hold my shift key down, and drag and draw a circle. Now this is going to keep it the exact same dimensions as long as I've held my shift key down. Now, this is where the dimensions of your button actually come into play. So my button was 0.75, so I'm going to come up here to the scale tools and type in 0.75 and hit enter. That's going to change if my lock is locked and it's closed, it's going to change both the height and the width proportionally. Now I can left click and drag across both my square and my circle, and I'm going to choose the center option. Now, currently I have two objects stacked on top of each other. So if I were to fill this with color, it's easier to see a visual of this. Just going to fill the square with blue, and I'm going to fill the circle with white. So currently there are two layers. I want to make this one layer, and I'm actually going to change this color not to white. I'm going to change it to pink so you can see this. So currently I have two layers. I have a circle stacked on top of a square. I'm going to left click and drag across both to select them, and then I'm going to right click and choose make compound path. When I do that, it takes it from two layers and it cuts that circle out of the middle of that rectangle, and it makes it one layer. So it's combined those two objects into one object. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the color out of this so we can work with it as a design. You can use any graphics that you would like. The biggest thing you want to look for is you would want a transparent PNG file, so there's no white background around your image, and you're just going to have to, each design is going to be different, so you're going to have to play with that and see what you like. But the easiest ones to look for are a high quality PNG image that has a transparent background. Since I have this designed, I can simply save this as a template file in case I would ever want to use it again. So I'm going to come over, I'm going to open the file where I want it to be saved, and I'm simply going to name this graduation template. If you're going to be doing this over again, it's a great idea to have this template saved if you're using the same size cap. Since I'm saving that as a template file, I'm then going to choose File, Save As, Save to Hard Drive, and this is going to be my flower design. We'll just call it that. So then I need to open the graphics that I'm going to be working with. Now, these graphics, I will put the links in the description below to the ones I use so that you could practice with this, but you could choose and look for different designs that would fit your needs. So I'm going to come over here to File, Open, I'm going to find my file. So I am using a file called Watercolor Sunflower from Design Bundles, and I just simply picked it because it was one I had in my wish list to purchase. So I've unzipped that file and I have access to these images. I'm going to click on the bouquets, and you can see here that these are a PNG file. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open a couple of these to use. So let's work with these three. So I simply selected one, I held down my control key and I clicked on the others, and then if I click OK, it's going to open all of those up, and you'll see those on a new design tab. So if you look at this, I have this image and it is a transparent background, which is what we want in order for these graphics to kind of nest together. So I can simply Control C on this page with the design selected, and then I'm going to go back to my flower design and I can paste this on here. Now, something I do want to mention here is that when you start working with a lot of graphics, that is a lot of data. Graphic files are larger files, and you could hear your computer running more. It's processing that data. The more you change things, the more you add to it, that creates an even larger file. If you find that your computer is having issues with doing the graphics or large images like this, try to shut everything down and only have what you need open on the computer at one time. For instance, since I've already pulled this image in here, I can go over here and I'm going to simply close that. That takes away a little bit of that data. I'm actually going to resize this just a bit before I copy it. Control C, and then take it over to my flower design, Control V, and I'm just going to put these over here on the right hand side for us to work with those. And then I can close this one once I'm done, and I can already hear my computer processing that data. I'm going to resize this just a little bit. Keep in mind with PNG files or with graphic files like photo files, the size that the photo comes in at, graphic files are set resolution. You can usually decrease the size of a JPEG or PNG file, but if you increase the size of a JPEG or PNG file, you can get a pixelated image. So you want to keep that in mind when you're working with your graphics as well. So Control C, Control V, and then I just have to decide which one I want to start with. I'm going to go back here to this file and I'll just close it. And then I have less data being accessed on my computer at one time. So since this one is kind of a corner design, I think I'm going to start with the corner. And you're going to use the same steps the entire time as you're doing this. And maybe I don't want that in the corner. All of this is going to come down to personal preference. So let's start over here. Let me choose this one. And every one you create could look a little bit different. So I think I'm going to use that green rotate option and kind of rotate that in. and then rotate again. Okay, I kind of like that. So once I have it placed on my original template, I'm going to left click and select both of those, and then I'm going to make a copy. So however you make a copy, I like to use the Alt key, and you can see when I press Alt, my cursor changes. On a Mac, it could be the Option key. And then I simply drag a copy off to the side. Now, however you copy and paste, there's probably 10 different ways you can do it in the Silhouette Studio software, so whatever is the best method for you. With both of my rectangle and my graphic selected, I'm going to open the Modify panel on the right-hand side, and I'm going to choose Crop. Now you can see that it crops that image down to the corner of my rectangle. This is why I made a copy, is because I want to keep the original graphic intact. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to then move this over here to my corner. Now, if I like the way that is and I want it to kind of be symmetrical, again, complete personal preference here, you could simply do this on every single corner and get a little bit different look. But I can come over here and select the one I've already cropped. I'm going to open the Replicate panel, and I'm going to choose Mirror Right. And that's going to mirror that, and I could simply move it over here, or if I wanted to give it a little bit different aspect and make it opposite, I could right click and choose Flip Vertically, and then I could place it here. So we have two of our corners. I'm going to do the same thing. So this one I can simply replicate up, and then I can, let's try this, flip horizontally. And I'm going to rotate that in to my corner. And it really is, so now I have a leaf on this side of everything. So now I'm going to, again, personal preference, however you decide you want to design it. If you want them all to match, if you want them to be a little mismatched, that is completely up to you. So you get all of your designs in your corners, and then you can start adding other elements in. You could use the same one if you'd like and make it out of one graphic. That is completely up to you. This one here, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to just bring it in here. You can see it kind of just fits right in there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the graphic that's hanging over the edge, hold my Shift key down, and select the rectangle. Then I'm going to press my Alt key and drag a copy off. So you can see that it drags off just what I have selected. Then I'm going to open my Modify panel again, and I'm going to choose Crop. Now that's going to crop that graphic. I can move the original away so I still have the original to play with, and I can move this in here. So let's take a closer look at this. So currently I have this and it's sitting on top of both of those graphics. But what if I wanted it underneath? I could simply right click and I can choose Send to Back, which would take it all the way to the back, or I could choose Send Backwards. It's going to drop it behind this layer, which I think is what I'm going to do. You could continue to send it backwards if you wanted it to be behind this graphic up here. I'm going to zoom out a little bit, and then I'm simply going to use those replicate panels again. Open the replicate panel, and then I'm going to mirror over here to the left. And in this case, my graphics are a little bit off. So I could add, because of the way my design is on this side, you can see that it's not matching for both sides, and that's why I have a little bit different dimension. So I could come in here, I could put this one over here. I could right click and choose Send to Back. And then I can use another design to fill in this space here in just a second. And really it's just going to depend on what you want to do. So now I could simply mirror up, and I could right click and choose Flip Horizontal, and then rotate this. Not sure if that did anything. Let me see here. So this was over here. Yep. that did. So I'm going to redo, and I can move those in here. I could even probably increase this just a bit since I already shrunk it down once. Bring this in here, and you don't have to have all your space filled. It's just going to be completely up to you and what you want to do. Right click, choose send backwards, and I may need to do this a couple of times. I could send it to back, and then I could bring to front. I actually want to send to back, bring forward, and see. It's going to be difficult for you to see that on the screen, but you can just play until you get the desired effect that you want. So there, I currently have that. You can see because my corners were not identical here on every single corner, that's why I ended up with this gap down here, which I could simply come in here and use another graphic. See how it looks in here? Maybe I want to add this right in there. And then I'm going to select that sunflower, hold my shift key down, and I want to simply select the outer rectangle. So I want to make sure this one, what I can do is click this sunflower, hold my shift key down, and click on that circle there. And then I'm going to press my Alt key, press the Alt key and drag a copy away. And then I'm going to open the modify panel and choose crop. And I can move the original away, not that one, move the original away and place this in here. And then what I might do is right click, send to back a few times, and there are keyboard shortcuts for this. If you don't know, the keyboard shortcuts are on the last page of the user's manual. You can find that under help at the top and then user's manual. So it just depends on how you work. So I'm going to try send to back and then bring, actually kind of like it in the front, but let's see here. Yeah, I don't like that. Bring. Once you send something to back, it can be harder to select. Bring forward, there we go. I think I like that. So then once you have all your graphics placed, you can add some text in here. So the first thing I'm going to do is, the ones I've been seeing are usually a black in color. So I'm going to select my background here, and I want to change this to black. And as you can see, some of those flowers are now behind that black. So I want to right click on my black rectangle and choose send to back. So everything, it's behind everything. And then I can add my text in here, however you want to do that. So I'm going to type out she, and I'm actually going to do these on separate text boxes because I'm going to want to move those around. So once I have one text box, I filled it with white and I turned the line color. I actually want to just turn the line color to transparent. I'm going to hold my Alt key down, drag a copy away, and then I can double click. And this is a popular saying I've been seeing. Type a new letter, drag and hold my Alt key down, drag a copy. And it keeps the same properties. So I'm simply just copying, pasting. And I have that one. I can make another copy, and this one's going to be so. And then make a copy. And this one's going to be did. So then once I have all my text, and it just depends on how you want to place your text on here. If you want to write it all on one text line, that's fine. It's going to be a matter of how it works best for you. So I'm going to select all my text, going to click on the text style tool, and I simply used a font called Beauty Dina. I'm not sure where I got it. I just clicked on it and I liked it. If I find the source, I'll link that in the description below as well. And then you can just start placing these here. And you could even rotate. Whoop, make sure you grab the right thing and don't move your graphics. You could rotate it so it fits. You just have to keep in mind that little button on each graduation cap. And that's probably rotated just a little bit too much. Play around with it depending on what your design is. It may fit better than others. And this one, I think I might rotate just a little bit. Your font style and the words that you type, those are all going to be a difference in how this would come out. But I think that's pretty good. And you could use any colors that you want. I'm going to select everything and just hit Control G to group that all together. So you could play around with this. You could do anything you would like with that. You could use multiple graphics. I do want to give you one more tip here. When you are ready to go, you could either do this as a print and cut, which is going to cut out that little circle in the center. So the first thing I would do here is, with this entire design selected, I'm actually going to have to rotate this again. So I actually have two things for you. So I'm going to rotate this back my 45 degrees. And then in order to do this as a print and cut, you would have to have the capabilities to print a 12 by 12 sheet of cardstock, or you're going to have to send that out to be cut. So you would have to save as a file type that the printer, wherever you're having it sent to, can open and print. You could simply print this and then cut the edges with a paper cutter and then cut out this circle by hand. That's one way to do it. You could also set it up as a print and cut if you have the 12 by 12 capabilities to print. So if I turn on my registration marks, I do have the 12 by 12 option to print, and so I will go ahead and print this, and then I'll share a photo of the finished project at the end. But before I do that, I want to bring in a file from the Silhouette Design Store and show you what something you could encounter with that. So if I come over to a new tab, I'm simply going to open a file. So if you're working with a graphic file from the Silhouette Design Store, I'm going to come over here to All Files, and I'm just going to randomly pick one. So if I come up to File Types and I uncheck Select All and simply check my print and cut options, this is going to narrow my search window down to my graphic files that can be print and cut, or that are set up for print and cut. So I'm going to come over here. I'm just going to randomly choose a design. So let's just choose this abstract yellow flower, watercolor flower, and I'm going to double click to open it. When I get a message that the material or action settings used for this document could not be found. You may not encounter that, you may encounter it. Simply click OK. That just means that the designer created settings for their particular project, and that's saved with that file, which was then uploaded. And then this one is a new one in the version 4.4. It's going to automatically turn the registration marks on for me. That's okay, I can choose either option. What I want to address here is that if I move this off my mat, you're going to see that this is not a transparent PNG. This file here has a white background. It is currently grouped together. So if I were to right click and choose ungroup, I can move. I have a cut line and I have my graphic file. I'm going to choose undo. Now your white background is going to make a difference in your design part of it, because white doesn't print, but if you go to print this, it's going to show the white areas. It's going to leave those blank. So here, if I am working with a file like this, I'm going to select both of these, and then I want to come over here to the Modify panel and choose Crop. That's going to narrow it down a little bit. It's going to crop it to whatever those cut lines are for that design. You are still going to have these white edges, and it's still going to show that way when you go to print. So let me just show you an example here. If I draw out my rectangle, I'm going to change that to 9.25 again, and then I'm going to draw my circle and change that to 0.75. Then I will select both and center, and I'm going to right click and make compound path. So I have my template here again, or I could have just opened my template. That would have been easy too. I'm going to rotate that to 45 degrees so we can work with this. So if I come in here and I move this image and I start placing it, that white, depending on what the background color of your board is going to be or your design, if I right click and choose send to back on this, you are going to see that white around it. So when you are picking graphics and thinking about this, you want to keep that in mind. A lot of these graduation cap designs that I see, some of them are color, a lot are just on the black because the black matches what the cap's color is already. But you have multiple colors and variations with different things for your graduation caps. Some use all black and some do the colors of the school. So it's really just what the person would like, what you think, and what you like to design with. There are lots of options available in the Silhouette Studio software. So I hope this tutorial has helped you to see how you can work with graphics in the Silhouette Studio software. Again, keep in mind, your computer makes a big difference in this. The more graphics that you have, the larger the data file and the more it takes to process all of that data at one time. So I would love to see your projects on the Silhouette Secrets with Ellie Mae Facebook group. And here is a glimpse at the print and cut. So I'm going to send it to my printer to print on my 12 by 12 cardstock. In the Silhouette Studio software, I go to File, Print. It's going to pop up the print preview. You can see my page size is not correct. This is a stupid Windows thing. I need to change my page size. So I'm going to click on my preferences and change my page size to my 12 by 12 cardstock, my rear tray. I'm going to click OK, and then I'm going to click Apply and Cancel. This is going to reset the page size. So when I go to File, Print, it's going to show in the print preview correctly. So I have changed my print, and then I'm going to click Cancel here, and I get my printer window. And then I just double check my settings. So I want to make sure it's going through that rear tray on my printer. I click Print, and then it's going to send it to my printer. And then I send it through my Silhouette to cut. I'm going to click on Send in the top right corner, select my material. Always do your test cuts to make sure that's going to work for you. And make sure that the cut lines are only around the areas that you want it to cut. The circle in the middle and the outer edge. You want to turn the cut lines off for your text. I'm going to click Send, and I have increased this speed. What are you doing? Are you helping? And then you simply would apply that to your graduation cap. Now, you may even want to apply it to something that's a little bit sturdier, like a piece of chipboard, and then apply that to your graduation cap. Really, it's just going to be a personal preference on putting the parts together. And once it was cut, I did a rough test fit on it. This isn't with any adhesive, it's just to see. You can see my helper is there in the background supervising. And then I ended up adding a laminate over top of it. I just squeegeed some laminate on top because it was just cardstock matte, and it gave it a little bit of a sheen finish to it. And then I asked my daughter to help model this because it's really hard to take a picture of the back of your head. I guess I could use my remote, but I put it on there, and I just temporarily put the thing on so I could use it for a future project. And then I liked it so much that I created a 12 by 12 and added it to a frame. I just rotated that text back. I want to thank you for joining me. I hope these tips have helped. Make sure to like, subscribe, and click that bell for notifications on future content. Have a great day.